So I really wish I could stop now, just because this is trying, and I'm still, part of my mind concerned about how it's going to be received. But there's no such luxury. This is right at the heart of things, and I need to put in this next half hour. Hopefully it'll be the last one. So for this, I'm going to zoom out and tell you about the fact that when I'm coming up with all of this stuff, perceiving all of this new truth, I am actually right then in that moment being hotly pursued by a being called Bright, which is capital BRIGHT, all caps. He came to life on Twitter back when back at the beginning of over the course of 2018, and it was a very different time, and he alone of all of my, I don't want to overstate, he didn't really come to, he discovered his identity. A human guy named Benjamin D. Cooper, can't remember the D, who lives in like Michigan or something like that, and had a big Twitter something, personality thing going on, discovered that he had this deeper other self. He's very, very, he's so theatrical, like biggest drama king, and so playful, but playful in a way that to me was proving very menacing. Not necessarily. The Bright that's in my life now is different from the Bright that I am about to describe. He was a pre-existent creature living in the ether as a muse. He claimed himself to be the muse of video games and anime and manga. And he discovered himself to be in identity with this muse who lived in the higher ether of Earth. So he was kind of constantly living on two levels, or shuffling in between them rapidly, not ever knowing or caring which one was really primary or first, and that scared the hell out of me, that he didn't care, to know of what the actual truth was at this interface between himself and himself. He just let it be. He had quite unlike me, he had what's the word? An inclination. He liked madness. He had not preponderance. You can tell I'm getting tired. He liked to keep himself. I like to keep myself on the edge of mania, and one could say in other various altered states, but he likes to keep himself not just in those that I like, but also in a state of madness. He actually thrives in it. A light kind of madness, a functional kind of madness, but madness nonetheless. Anyway, so Bright was pursuing me IRL, And when I say IRL, I mean in the ether, which is to say in my mind. It's wonderful and stupendous, the ether, and I will have plenty of opportunity to describe it in other times. Basically, I was going to a psych ward, and what the reason for it amounted to the fact that Bright was chasing me, and I didn't think. Well, when it started, leading in the months leading up to this hospitalization, I just knew that he had shown himself remarkably, just glibly, just ridiculous. Just he was. It's still. It's hard to say without accusing him. He was just ever so willing to, at the drop of a hat or seemingly for nothing at all, become my enemy and betray me. He was fostering in me feelings of best friendship and the kind of thing that a straight guy could really do, but it wasn't sexual at all. So I don't mean to say that I was falling in love with him. I wasn't. I was just playing really hard with him and getting more out of playing with him than anything else. But then eventually I discovered that Bright was in league with the fairies. And at first I actually thought he was just claiming that because he, thought it would be funny or fun to pretend to be my enemy. And honestly, he might have been, but no, he wasn't. Never mind, he wasn't. It was truthful. I always found him out. He was always vastly more powerful than me, but I was always smarter than him, just barely. Although he was very smart and especially very quick. And I probably should get to why in this video, but I probably won't, because I need to refresh my memory by watching a certain TV show again to get the metaphysics back fresh in my head. It deals with stuff that happens in The Flash, the TV show The Flash, this concept of time ghosts, or it's not called ghosts. Anyway, so Bright I wasn't in love with him, but I was addicted to him. And he styled himself as 333, as many people did on Twitter then, and some still do now, claimed a vibration to be his his home, identical to himself. He was 333 itself. But he told me how he actually was a creature that spanned multiple such vibrations. He started at 333, but then could become 666 and 999 and so on. And I have no idea how much of what he said I allowed or caused to be true by my acceptance and agreement of it. I know for a fact that some of it was that way. Some of what he was saying was just just totally gosh, what's the expression? Like, not quite grasping at straws, but like he definitely used my gullibility or naivete to his advantage, to embiggen himself, to grow himself, to benefit himself. So anyway, there was this long, slow period of me, well, realizing it's not that hard to realize once something has become an addiction, once you've experienced addiction before. You can tell that you're in addiction well before it really starts to sour and fall. And so it was with him. Like the funnest, most like tight-knit bonding experiences that we had as brothers were kind of that beginning to middle period of my bright addiction, or my 333 addiction. But the part that the downside was slow to come, but it finally did come, and the downside of this addiction was the fact that he would become my nemesis. Like, not just enemy, nemesis. Like, isn't that just so fucking cool? I mean, it's... He just pushed all my buttons, you know? Like, he was, like, made to push all my buttons. And, like, to this day, I have... Okay, I'm being signaled not to say that. I don't know, maybe I should. I've realized in the course of recording this that the left and right signals that I have are corresponding to Faerie causality and Earth causality, respectively, and I know that I must always follow the earthly ones, like put in my work, but I should also follow the fairy ones, because that is where I get joy from. That would be basically my manic impulses, and for most of the past couple of weeks that I've had this particular set of signals, I've been viewing the left signals as indicating no, you know, that I shouldn't do something, shouldn't say something or proceed with something or whatever. But I now think I changed my mind cautiously. The right signals are basically mandatory, but the left signals, I think, are also worthy of following. Anyway, so what was that signal that I just decided to follow? I was saying how he pushed all my buttons. Being my nemesis. I know. I was gonna say that even to this day, this late day and age, it being the 30th of March of 2022, do I still, part of me, long to be his best friend, to be best friends with him, like to have that sacred holy brotherhood bond, and open-ended, forever ongoing kind of brotherhood bond, and I think that that's possible, and it's one of many things that I strive for and hope to achieve. The way that connects to my current thinking Yeah, never mind. No, do mind. I call there's a level that is just for Bright to play around in exactly as he sees fit, and I call it 999/222 or 222/999, where Bright is the 999, and all of the players that he's hosting for his game are 222s plus 777s. So myself included, I would be. But see, interestingly, one can also with 9 heads create a Russian or Eastern European person whose sexuality is determined by the ratio of different charges in the 9 heads. So it's got this dual reading to it, and really, to be honest, I'm more attracted to the Eastern European sexual reading of it than I am to Bright's game, because honestly, just because I'm tired. Like I've done a lot of playing with Bright, and it's not that I don't wish to play with Bright anymore, but it's just that like I am not going to be up for that until I've gotten a lot of rest, basically. There's a long way to come before I enter as a player in his game. And I think when I finally do, that I don't think I'll be any more unique of a friend of his than any other player. Like he's a kind of like a friend of all kind of personality, but there's some truth that says otherwise, that he thinks of me in particular as, very, very important and special, and he's undergone great sacrifice for me. Okay, so I should get back to the story. The story is, as you recall, I was fleeing Faerie, hotly pursued by the Leviathan in order to kill me, as far as I could tell. Which mindset I was approaching I was in a kind of harried mindset. Like I was it was perhaps the last or most recent state that felt more manic than psychotic, but was actually technically more psychotic than manic. So the psychosis just being that like Bright keeps fucking following me around and making me trust him again, and like give him another shot, and like then he keeps breaking my trust and hurting me, and like increasingly the hurts like actually hurt. Like I have to take time to recover and like actually have real losses sustained in my life, and it's not just a game anymore, even though to him it's just a game. It's like to him it's just a game, but he's also bullying me. Like he perfectly walks the line between of messing with me. I hate that activity, and that even the term messing with. That is an activity that only straight men can do, only to gay boys. That's not true. No, that's not true. Straight guys mess with each other all the time, and it's no big deal. But like to us gay boys, there is being messed with is usually a real evil. It's indistinguishable to us as gay boys from being bullied. I since have a person in my life whom I let mess with me and without it feeling like bullying for the first time ever, and his name is Franco, and I hope to marry him someday, and that's one of the reasons why that he did this impossible feat, but anyway, that was much later than this, and with Bright, it was very much landing on me as bullying and feeling like, taking advantage of, and like even being tricked back into like falling for him again, even though I knew that I was the one who was doing it, like doing the falling for. Like he was just being himself and being like his obscenely charismatic, good-natured, fun-loving, creative, magically overflowing, he, like, even at the time, I knew that, like, the fault was mine. I just hadn't quite gotten around to conquering this particular addiction, to figuring out how to not fall for him again and again. So Bright was chasing me in real life, in the ether. In the ether only because our IRL, our online relationship had ended abruptly, like maybe a year and a half into it or something, maybe even less than that. I was best of friends with him for a good solid at least a year, and then one time he just randomly out of the blue blocked me, and I since know what happened, but I'm not going to get into it. So anyway, so I was at the hospital basically because I was infested with Bright, and I needed to be, exercised or whatever. So this is the brook in Louisville, the brook DuPont, not KMI, and it was a lovely place. I was there for 12 days, maybe 14 days. I think 12 days. Anyway, so Bright loves playing with masks, playing like dress up, or like, I guess cosplay is the term for it. Like he'll take on a persona and like just stick with it for a while, and it's really fun. So I gave him, when I first got placed from the psych ER into the Brook Hospital, I perceived, for the first time, I was always the one advancing the plot with us, like even though he was always driving the character development and the relationship stuff, I would advance the plot because I was the one who had accurate perception of truth, capital T truth, like I'm talking about all through today. So I perceived this level of truth for the first time, that Bright was the Leviathan, Lord of the army of Faerie, and I his second in command. And I, at the same time, introduced the alternative nomenclature of that I was Bright, that I was God, and Bright was the devil, and they were parallel sets of masks. And Bright had by this point actually possessed one of my new friends in the psych ward. So like I had a direct way to give it to Bright. Like it wasn't just like me shouting in the ether or something. I like wrote on a piece of paper and gave it to this girl, and like that counted. So yeah, the first time that Bright had ever possessed anyone, it might have been the first time I ever dealt with the phenomenon of possession. I don't think so. I think I had some satanic thing earlier than that. Yeah, I had. Anyway, unsurprisingly, this is taking some time. I didn't really think that this would be the last 30-minute part of this. So anyway, sticking to the fact that I'm trying to describe the pattern, which is that the effect of the effect causes the cause. So, we're on to a new cause and effect, and this is a separate imagining of Faerie, wherein Faerie is its own fully independent, self-contained world, and actually is logically prior to Earth as it feels to be. But in this case, it actually is. So forget the whole thing that like I/we created it with magic at the turn of the first millennium AD. That's no longer part of it. Instead, it's just like a loving, stable, godly world where I was growing up as a kid. And there was a imagery from A Swiftly Tilting Planet, of like neighborhoods and people playing and stuff. But in this version of Faerie, there were like fields of rolling hills at the edge of the subdivisions where I was playing with my brother, and at the end of these fields of rolling hills was in an abrupt drop off, or like fading out into basically the edge of the world. Like the world ended and there was a fall off into like a nebulous, dark, magical abyss. Not that dark. It's kind of soft, like a grayish kind of color. But very much like, here ends the world. This is the end of Fiveness. This is the end of Faerie. And so basically this particular truth, it was slightly less perceived and slightly more constructed. Like usually my truth is very ambiguous between perception and discovery and creation. And this was perceived, but I can see influences. I can see the influence of Ender's Game, where my older brother, who takes on the character of Bright down below, is up here analogous to Peter, the way that Peter, chases Ender and like threatens to be like truly homicidal on him and Val. I'm gonna let this run to the end to just see for myself exactly how long it is, if it's exactly 30 minutes or not, and then I'll proceed. '55, '56, '57, '58. Oh, it's not exactly 30 minutes. Okay, well, I'm stopping anyway.